This is an interview with Judy Gozur for the Youngstown Historical Center of Industry and Labor Oral History Project titled Women at Work. The interview is being conducted at Liberty Arms. Today is May 23rd, 2023, and my name's Nicole Marino. Judy, where did you and your family live when you were growing up?
As a very little child, till about the age of 5, we lived on the south side of Youngstown on Chalmers Avenue. And then we moved.
And where'd you go to high school then?
Then we moved to Camel, Ohio, and that was my dad's hometown where he grew up. So I did go to Camel, Ohio.
All right.
My dad and my uncle built our house. So I have good memories of that as a child.
Nice. When did you graduate?
1976.
Right. And what, did you have a job while you were in high school?
Oh, yes.
What did you do while you were in high school?
I started with my passion. Actually, I believe I started probably at the age of 9 or 10. I would what was called an assistant teacher, and by the age of 11, I started working at the I think it was the YWCA, and I taught a morning class for like children, school kids, and I did that till maybe my second year in college.
And what were you teaching?
I was teaching dance.
Teaching dance. Very good. And so that was your very first job too, and you started...
But then I actually started teaching in high school as well. I was a teacher for Judy Gozur Dance Studio.
Okay. And very good. And did you go to college?
Yes, I did. I went for 1 year to YSU.
And then when you were done with college, did you go back to teaching dancing, or did you change your...
I've taught all my life.
And you still do?
I never stopped.
Okay.
So there was no break. I think when I had my second child, I took a very short little break, but I still owned the business and never left.
Okay. And so are you married?
Well, I think I am. My husband passed away. He passed away in 2019. On my mother's birthday.
Oh no, that's terrible. Stroke of luck. And then, how many children do you have?
I have 2 sons.
You have 2 sons. Okay. So, you were teaching dance for other people.
You didn't ask me if I was a grandma.
Oh yeah, no, we'll get to that later.
Okay. That's okay.
I don't even like those questions up here at all.
That's
actually,
okay.
But,
go ahead.
So,
talk about dance.
You were teaching for the Y, and then...
I did a lot of odd things, too. As I was going through, I worked at a model agency where I would teach dance for them. I did choreography for different things. I've just always done all kind of unique things, like whether it be plays, majorettes, cheerleadings, camps, you name it. Just special ed, gone in and taught preschoolers, just programs. I've just done a lot of things even through those years.
So dance is your passion, and you were able to, at least early on, use that to launch into it, and then you started your own business.
Yes, that happened after I managed 2 dance studios for the owner that I worked for, and then at this point I was about 32, 33. I had both my children, and my husband and I, took the kids in the car and went for ice cream and just to look around at a place and say, see what's happening. So we drove around, and the kids were in the back seat, and we were thinking of talking different names that we could name it. The reason that I wanted to do something on my own was because I kind of felt stifled where I was, and I had a lot of creative ideas, and when I do certain things, I'd kind of be reprimanded, like, why did you do that, blah, 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 and I just had a bigger vision of what I wanted, and my husband is an educator, and he is definitely, he was my #1 support, and if anybody was going to make it happen, he would help me, and we worked together. So really, it was a business, not just of my own, but in in order for me to be successful, he worked with me as the father to my children, as my support mate, and he was an administrative kind of man. He was born, I said he came out of the womb as an administrator. He had that ability, so he was very helpful in helping to educate me on certain things with the business. But so I keep going. I'm sorry.
Do you remember what year it was that you decided? I'm sure it kind of built on you for a while, and when you finally decided to pull the trigger, when did you?
Well, as a child, this has been in my blood. I used to, on our back porch and in my basement, those were my dance studios. And I would have all the neighbor kids come over, and I'd look in the window, and that big sliding door was my mirrors. Chocolate milk was like I was drinking coffee. I invited everybody in, and I taught dance to everybody. I had a file system. I had the whole thing when I was a little girl, But when I'm trying to think if it was like 1991. I can't remember. I think it was like around in there, like 1991-ish, 92. I think that's when I actually broke off and did my own thing.
Okay. And so it sounds like you had the right kind of support, and he had a good head for some of the things, and you already had a leg up. So you had a passion for dance, and you did this. So did you, in order to be a self-employed person or in order to start your own business, did you look for ways to educate yourself further on how to run the business part?
Well, that was an interesting thing,
because that.
Back in the day, dance was not looked upon like it is today. It was looked upon more of a hobby. I remember my very first. I had a group of women that I taught their children in the day, and I was actually in Liberty. And I had opened my studio there. That was the first studio. And it was interesting to me because they basically saw me as a glorified babysitter. And so they wouldn't come to pick up their kids on time. They'd just drop off their kids, blah, blah, blah. They did not understand the concept of what I was trying to do. Because I always had this natural thing about it's just not one thing, it's the whole child. And, that was very important to me. And as they got involved with the studio years later, they continued to stay with me. And then they saw the evolution of how they developed and all of that. But I didn't look at the business as I should have business-wise. What I mean by that is it was always the creative part. It was that I had a husband who had a job, and he helped me that way. But now I realize I wish I would have done certain things differently. Financially, we were so foolish. We didn't have anybody to teach us about the business. So when I'd order costumes, I ordered them on my own credit card, which was dumb because then, I'm being everybody's bank, and then you get stuck with costumes. People don't want to pay, or they think, it was tough. The beginning was tough in those kind of ways. And I had a tough crowd. People, didn't want, they expect a lot for nothing. And I did too much for nothing that I shouldn't have. But that was part of learning. Now my business head is a lot different than it was then. But it grew me, because number one thing, I always loved my children. I always loved my students. And I think, if I could educate myself, I did. I went and I got involved in it's called Cicchetti Ballet, because I felt that my ballet was weak. So I got certified through all the different types. I went to, they did workshops then. They didn't have videos and things that you could do. I was always going. I was always educating myself. And then if I needed to, of course you would do like first aid and all that stuff, everything. Anything I could, I would do. And then there were business programs that they would also offer for dance educators. I got involved in Dance Masters of Ohio, which was a really cool thing because they would have different programs that they would teach you. So again, as I was learning, because at the beginning, I really didn't have the support, because where I came from, she was very upset with that I was leaving, and I even asked if I can be kind of buy out one of her studios and go from there, work with her. And she wasn't willing to do that, which was fine. She had her vision. And, I was fortunate because I had a lot of community support in the dance world too, meaning like people that I had taught dance to, they were very supportive, and encouraged me along. And sometimes those parents really got in there and they helped me as well. I still to this day am very good friends with them. Matter of fact, one of them, her daughter became a professional dancer. She has her own studio in Philadelphia. She just now closed because her and her family is in Australia.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of cool things that have developed from it.
And it sounds like your relationship with the community as a whole has just blossomed through your work with young
yes,
people.
And that's really cool because you could do so many things on all different levels. I mean, I've done mitzvahs, I've done, you name it. I've gone into all different kind of age groups, which I love because what I've learned is so much more than what I have given. To me, I just love what I've learned from them.
Sure.
Even how to be a parent. It teaches you, like, you watch families, you watch mothers, how they talk to their children. I remember as a high school kid, a young girl, saying, oh no, I'm not going to do that. So I've learned a lot that way. I'm sorry, I'm taking you off course. You go right ahead.
No, that's part of the, that's all, everything you're saying is all part
Yeah,
of
but I mean, it taught me, I learned more. I guess my point is, I learned so many life lessons. When you have a full class of little kids and they're, peeing on the floor and tap dancing in the pee, you got to learn how to be quick and make things work out and clean it up, and you got to get this, and you got to work it.
That
so
is
you
not
learn
a thing I would have thought of.
There's all kind of things you don't think of. Parents with their children, especially daughters and mothers, it's interesting. You have to learn how to be able to say things that are important, but sometimes very hard to hear. And so the diplomacy of learning how to speak to people, it grew me because I call it your suitcase of life. Everything that I learned from this dancing is in my suitcase of life, and I pull it out every day, something, because it's so many people skills, and that concerns me a lot because I have students now. We always had assistant teachers through the years. I'm jumping ahead. But I tell them this. When they graduate, they get little suitcases with all kinds of things in it about their suitcase of life. And it's to remind them of the things that are very important. And they learn firsthand. Being an assistant teacher is important because that helps the teacher. You're not the teacher, but you have to take over when the teacher's not there. You have to learn how to handle things. And you start grooming when they're very young. So these qualities are birthed into them at a very young age, and they apply them everywhere else in their life.
Sure. So you have some of your own assistants there. Do you have other teachers with you as well?
Well, at what stage? When I worked for someone, I was the head teacher. And then sometimes I didn't have help. Sometimes you do have help. It depends on what's going on, assistant teacher-wise. Sometimes you joint teach, where you combine, you're doing a production or something, or a piece, and you work together. So you also have to learn how to work with people. Like I said, there's so many things. It's like being on a sport team. And it really is. You have to learn how to get along. You have to learn how to wait your turn. You have to learn how to share your ideas. And it's at every level of life, everything you could think of.
What's the name of your studio?
Right now, it is called J&J's Dance Depot. It's located in Hubbard, Ohio.
Okay.
And I was Judy Gozur Dance Incorporated, and I was in Liberty, Ohio. And then I took a partner on, and we became together. Her name is Jody Record, so it's J&J's Dance Depot.
Okay. So you've talked about the evolution of the way that people approached you in the early days of dance and how that has changed. Like with early on, the parents would bring the kids sometimes and treat you like an ad hoc.
And fathers too. They didn't. I remember my husband was upset because there would be late fees, and sometimes what my husband would do, God bless him, because he was a teacher, a principal. He was always he had good things he was involved in himself. And it was so cute because he'd come down and he'd work my desk for me if I didn't have anybody to work the desk. And I can remember him sitting there and talking to them and just the different things, how people look at things differently. Some people think that they're privileged, and they think that, again, at that time, I was just a glorified babysitter. Mm-hmm. They didn't respect the knowledge that I had and how hard I worked to achieve the education in dance that I have, which I'm glad that changed, because it wasn't right, because you did work your bottom off and you were treated inappropriately. So this one gentleman was angry. We had a late fee if he didn't play on time, and he was very angry, irate, absolutely as rude as you could possibly be. Mm-hmm. And my husband, he had a lot of good things. He said, well, don't you have to pay a late fee when you don't pay your gas bill on time, or this? He taught me how to say things appropriately, mm-hmm. And you'd have people complain, well, the recital was too long, the dance recital. Well, the dance recital to me is not just kids on and off. I would make it a theme so it would be educational. For example, when we went to Powers Auditorium, we learned about, Powers Auditorium. We learned about the brothers. We learned, I want them to take home something. I want it to be an experience, mm-hmm. and theatrical, because they're not only dancing on stage. And I've had kids go into the theatrical end of it. So to me, and I loved what my husband would say, he'd say, Judy, think about it. They go, how many, at least for 8 to 10 weeks, they're going to go, and if they go into playoffs, they go to a football game for 3 hours, they can certainly go to a dance recital for 3 hours. And he was so right. Mm-hmm. If you could do that for your son, you could do that for your daughter.
You could do that for your daughter.
So he helped me to kind of learn how to approach the public in a very, mm-hmm. positive way, but it got me to think differently.
To
and
point out some of the places where
kindly.
maybe they had a bias or...
And they couldn't say anything because that is their child. You can't do that for one night a year.
Yeah.
You're going to give 3 hours, just one night, and your daughter's going to go and show you how hard she worked. That kind of a thing, because they do work hard.
Do you feel like that, did that evolve over time?
The respect for dance has changed, and it has evolved, because you are considered more now of an athlete, and it's just different. It's a different world. Humble beginnings, mm-hmm. Definitely. It's a totally, with having things that are recorded, being able to go on the internet, being able, when the VCRs came out, being able as a teacher to buy things and go over and over, it's just made it better. Mm-hmm. So the evolution of dance has changed.
Sure.
Everything's changed. Your teaching, just the way you run your business. We had them on index cards. You know what I'm trying to say? You had each person on an index card. Everything is now on the computer. It's just cutting music. We used to cut things, it was hysterical. We'd have 10 cuts going on, and all our hands are flying all over. Now you just do it on your computer. So mm-hmm. So much has changed. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I'm
okay.
Doing two things at once. You just keep going. So
your eyes are so pretty. They match your hair perfectly.
I just did it last night.
Oh, beautiful. I'm just looking at how'd you get her hair to match your eyes so perfectly?
So I'm glad you brought up the one man and your husband happened to be there for him, and then you obviously had multiple.
Well, actually, not always, but there were times that my husband, being a man,
yeah,
I would let him handle certain things. And it was so funny because he knew how to size the kid. He didn't touch them, mm-hmm. but he knew how, because I did all the measuring. So when you're costuming, he knew how to help the mothers with sizing. He would do that with them. Or he would explain certain things. But when there were really difficult situations, he groomed me. Mm-hmm. He didn't step over. I couldn't handle it, but he groomed me.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I do. And that's kind of the...
That was important to me. That was important in my life.
Yeah.
Because I was young.
Well, and he was an educator himself, so I think you two, it seems like, had a nice complementary relationship. And particularly considering the time frame of your career in dance, I'm sure there's been an evolution of the way that people will listen to the advice of a man to a woman.
Yes.
And so you have your own personal growth, wherein you learned a lot on your own and from him and all these other places.
Absolutely.
And then also socially, people are much more
It's change.
open to giving you the credit that you're due for the hard work that you've done.
Yeah.
And that's what you've done for the majority of your life, and you still do that. Do you have any scenarios where, like you mentioned, finding diplomatic ways to discuss with mothers and daughters how to get your point across? Have you had other instances where working with other people, men or women, are difficult in a gendered way like that? Like you pointed out that particular dynamic.
I've had a lot of unique situations. You have to be respectful to people. I've had a man come in from off the street, wanted me to be able to teach him how to be a mill stripper. I mean, I've had unique situations because you're trying to, and he was very serious, very intent. So but I'm alone in my studio, didn't have the door locked, and didn't feel comfortable at that stage in my life, So you have to be careful how to keep yourself safe as well. Some people they're not always up front. We had not long ago, maybe a couple of years ago, we had, I don't know how else to say it, like a creeper. And he was a dance studio. He jumped from studio to studio. And he would take dance lessons, but he was not a healthy young man. And he would put things online that were inappropriate. And he put pictures of the name of the studio behind him, like the sign and all this. And he was very inappropriate with girls and things, and just inappropriate. And he actually did get caught, and it went to court. He actually raped somebody. I mean, so there was some strange things that came in our life. I mean, if I look back and go through them, if my business partner was here, we'd go, oh yeah, remember that? Because we have been through quite a bit of stuff. We've had girls that we talk with them, we don't want you, these little kids, if you're an assistant teacher especially, they adore you, they look up to you, they don't want to see you if you're standing on the corner smoking a cigarette, or now in this day, they would take pictures of themselves and put them online, and we have to address all that. I mean, there's just so many things that have gone from smoking on the corner to showing your body, I mean, there's just in all these years, there's such a vast amount. But you have to always be politically correct, but you do things through, because you have to remember, these kids are like your kids in a lot of ways. Even though you don't like things they do, because as parents we don't always like what our kids do, you still have to address things that aren't proper. So to me, the dance studio is much more than teaching dance. Yes, I have 7 teachers. I have a business partner and all this. And they were homegrown. So they know that when people come into our studio, it's like coming into my living room. You are in my home. I'm going to treat you with respect. I expect you to treat me with respect. And I'm there for you. We are a family. I call it the dancing family. And when you love the children and you teach them that way, you give them something that makes them feel safe, and they don't have to be stars. It's about music, loving how it makes you feel, loving movement. All that is what it's about. It's not about that kind of ugly competition. And I don't want my dance family to get that way. We take pride when we go to competitions that we're voted, the top dance studio because of that, because of the kindness, because dance is just a little venue. There's so much more skills that they learn. Yes, dance has evolved, and I have wonderful teachers. They're so good. God bless them. But they also are still holding on to my home values, the things that are important to me that they're teaching the children. So like when I go in, and I talk to the kids. We do critiquing, like, before competitions and stuff, and we talk to them, and we teach them, ways that we want to do it, because it is a personal, private-owned business. So we'll say our prayers, before they go to a competition. We teach them. My teachers are right there with me. It's a very unusual group, but it's as long as it could be that legacy. I want that to be here as long as it possibly can. I'm sorry if I'm going off on a tangent.
No, that's a big part of your. That's a big part of your working life. So that's important. So, we already talked about how you opened this business with your husband. How did? I'm assuming that you were at least committing full-time hours to the studio, if not more than that, because
I had
self-employment frequently
at different times.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the beginning, because my kids were younger, I would. Because I did almost all the teaching because I was by myself. I didn't have a partner at that time. 6 years I was on my own before I took a partner on. And my kids were, school age, young. My youngest was 4. My oldest was 9. And that summer when we were putting the studio together, building, my oldest fell and broke his jaw. So we had, it was never easy.
Sure.
That's life. It's never easy. Mm-hmm. But it was really interesting, getting that going. So that's the age when I started. So, we went through quite a few years. We went through all their years like that when they were young. And what was the question? I'm sorry, I got sidetracked.
Part of it was going to be, how did working that much affect when your sons were small?
So what I would do, this is terrible, but it was the way I got through it. I would literally choreograph at night when everybody went to bed, do what I had to do that way as much as I could. When they were really little, I'd get everything ready before I'd go to work, or I'd do as much as I can at home, make the dinner, blah, blah, blah. Rick would come home, he'd pick up the shift. We worked together, and they were boys, so they knew all the places to go eat. If I couldn't get dinner made, they knew where to go. They had their old man friends at McDonald's and all that stuff. You know what I mean? And they were so cute because then they came and watched Ricky play ball when he was older. They made these connections, so it was really sweet. But then my boys got involved. Of course, they were lifters. They lifted the girls. They would do in my recital, I would do little fillers to have kids have time to change, and they were cute little skits and fun little things. And actually, my youngest son, that's how he met his wife. He was really young, and they danced in a bushel and a peck together. And it was sweet. It evolved, and parents got involved. Mothers helped backstage, fathers helped with different. It is a very community kind of a thing, where people are hands-on if they want to be, sure. And I needed it. Yeah. So all-nighters, not a lot of sleep. When I would go to the games, my oldest son told me, Mom, because I'd have my van loaded down with all my work, and then I'd bring things out when I'd watch the game. He says, Mom, when you come to the game, I do not want you to bring your work. I want you to sit and watch me. And from that point on, I think he was in 8th grade, I never brought anything to the game. I respected that. Yeah. But then they had fun too. They'd have their buddies at the dance studio. I'd work all night on a Friday night in the office, and they'd be flipping and flopping with the mats and having music blaring and having a good time. So there were a lot of pluses, I remember one time we didn't have any furniture in the living room. It was hysterical. We had moved into our house, and it was the cutest thing. It was all costume boxes, and we'd be eating off the boxes. That was our, other than a TV, So it was good stuff.
So did you ever find yourself in the position where you're working, you're running your business, you're taking care of your sons and your husband and your family and holding down your own household, and you have to care for another family member, aging parents or something?
Absolutely.
How did that affect your...
You know what I have to say? I think that going through the whole thing from the beginning and even through now, because don't forget now, I've had a husband that had cancer and this, and I've lost my husband. I've had a lot of things I've been through. my parents, Rick's parents, marriages, weddings, births. You want to be present for things. In a lot of ways, it was kind of good sometimes, and in a lot of ways, it was really hard. I have to say, my personal thing that I give credit to, it changed me. It made me draw to my faith, to God, because we would laugh, Rick and I, how do we get through that? How did we do it? We don't know how we did it. And it was literally like hands and knees. Lord, I don't know how I'm going to do this. And that was daily, living on the edge. But I would never change any of that, because that has made me who I am today. The gratefulness, just being able to spot things, just learning how to handle myself in certain situations. Because I did a lot of professional things too. I got to do through the dance. I got to dance professionally. I mean, even when I was young, it was called the Jean Carroll Show, which was, just a little kind of variety thing, which we laughed about, But it was something for a young girl to go up there and be able to go and perform how many times a month, and go through tapings and stuff. I learned so many wonderful things that sewed into me. And it was hard. But anything worth having is not going to be easy. You got to work for it. So I'm very grateful for that. But I'm in a different place now in my business. I'm still there. I'm still an owner. When my husband passed away, I had to change my life dramatically. Again, the regret. I wish I would have planned my business a little bit more as a business when I was younger. I'd be in a better situation. Never planned for my husband, obviously, to pass, to get cancer and pass. However, I'm grateful I had a business partner to help me through. That was really amazing. And we worked together. She was just wonderful. And again, she was one of my students that grew up, love her family, the whole bit. But if I would not have had all that respect, the things that I think I sewed into it, I would not be in this position right now. And it doesn't always happen that way. So I'm very grateful that I could go in and out of the studio now. I could do certain things that I can do because I had to take a full-time job in the day. Plus, I took my husband's seat of being on the Board of Education. So, I'll have 2 meetings this week in the evening. So, there's always things happening in my life. It's a very full life. But I'm grateful that I have that option, because I will be dancing on Friday. I will be dancing at the recital. I will be doing this. But I didn't have to totally walk away from it. And I could do as much as I want because my partner is picking up that slack. And, she's going 24/7. And I talk to her. I'm now her consultant. Okay, now, what can I do? Let's ease this. Don't, we try to work things out that way.
Sure. So you have a full-time job in the day, and what is that?
I am an activities director here at Liberty Arms Assisted Living. And that's how we met.
And how long have you been doing that?
After my husband passed, I realized that I had to go to work, especially for insurance and everything. I think I started 2 months after he passed away. And I worked at a different facility, and it was very sad to see how things were going with the way residents were treated. They had started me out as a receptionist, put me on as an activity director, wanted me then to be so they did. They hired me they trained me, I should say, for dementia, working with special need. What am I trying to say? Not handicap. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of my dance for a minute. They trained me for that type of dementia, on the floors, memory care floor. So I did that for a little bit there, and I would be doing 3 jobs at one time there. It just wasn't. I want to do it good, and I just didn't feel like I could do that good, So here I do have 1 job here, which is nice, but I do wish I had more support. I will, and I think this is my dancing. I have taught all kinds of children. I had built something that had never been done. Her dad helped me. We built. She had a ton of problems, a special need little girl, and she tap danced on stage, and I had her combined with a class, and we took that as a learning experience for the children to learn about kindness and love, and they were thrilled that they danced with her. And sadly, the little girl didn't live as long as I wish she would have, but she had a wonderful experience. So those things taught me. So I have a special needs girl here. I have one with high anxiety. I have a deaf girl here. I've taught dance to deaf people. I've had these experiences that I don't have fear because the dance prepared me for, again, suitcase of life. Just pull it out, you know. So that kind of all pulled together.
So at Liberty Arms, do you work primarily with men, primarily with women? Is it a mix of people?
Yeah, it's a mix. Sometimes I think you have more females than males, but it is a mix.
Okay. And what do you think of your relationship with your coworkers? Like how...
you mean my business? My actual business?
No, here at Liberty Arms.
That's an interesting question.
I mean, also your business, but I felt like you kind of covered that earlier.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I will say that this has been an eye-opening experience to go from owning a business, you know, as an owner, what you want from an employee. So I have tried to be that kind of an employee. I am very intent on my time. I try to follow through with my job, everything. I'm not a perfect person, but I do put my heart in it, and I try to carry over that creativity. However, working with people, the people that I work with at my dance studio are people that I have groomed and have known. So there is definitely a difference between working with people that don't know you, don't understand where you come from sometimes, and don't maybe have the same goals that you have. That has been a little challenging for me because I guess in the dance world that I live in with my teachers, our goal is the students. And it's not like that's your student or my student, it's our students. And so working here, I don't always feel the support or the unity that I think should be with everyone all the way from the top down. Some do, but it's not organized that way.
And do you think
That's hard
because
for me.
there's not as, maybe because the focus is not as narrow in this arena as it is in dance?
But I guess I have a problem with that because I don't care how old you are. You are a person, and these people deserve the respect, and they get it. It's not that they don't, but there should be a certain. I try in my job to do that, but it's very important that all needs are met. They're spiritual, they're emotional, they're mental, they're physical. It's just like teaching a dance class. Everything has to work together. And I think as a business such as this, it should all be in consideration, everything.
Okay. And how long have you been or when did you start working at Liberty?
February of 20... Wait a minute, I think I've been here for, what is this, 22, 20, that would have been, I think 21, I think, a couple years now.
As far as the working relationship, outside of having like a different philosophy maybe than some...
I get along with
No,
it.
That's what I mean. Like, do you ever see any like friction between men and women, women and women, men and men, any of that kind of thing? That
somewhat, yeah.
How does that generally resolve itself?
Well, I think it depends on who it is and what the situation is. And you're dealing with situations where people have dementia. They're not necessarily in their right thinking that they would be if they didn't have, because they're here for a reason. You know what I mean? So it's a challenge.
I mean, between the employees, not between you and the residents. I'm talking about your work life. Yeah.
I don't think I understand the question. I'm not clear.
Do coworkers have friction between each other, or with you, or between workers and administration, or any of those?
Well, I think that in my particular scenario, I'm kind of on an island in my own in some ways. Sometimes it is frustrating. I wish that I can have certain hands to help me more, and I don't, because they have their jobs to do.
Sure.
I understand that. Yes, definitely, the understanding sometimes from the top is not there to the needs of what is needed, that to meet, and then that affects longly in the outcome of it. It's going to affect the residents. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Does that answer it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Do you have any memories of any accidents on the workplace that you've ever been witness to?
Oh, sure. I do. But it got taken care of right away. We had a woman fall. I was actually with someone from corporate was here, and we were discussing something for the fundraiser, I think for the car show last year. And Vi fell into, she was getting ready to walk out of the room, and she fell back into the door. And immediately, we got help in here and everything. And we've had different things like that happen. The reason I'm telling you this one is because then once she got out of here, she never came back. She didn't, it was one thing after another.
Oh.
But there have been different times, not like the other place that I used to work at, but there are things that happen. I think it's just inevitable, for certain people.
Well, the risk level is likely significantly higher than the general population, and that makes sense to me. Do you ever remember any episodes of violence at any place you've ever worked?
No, not that I saw.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. No, I mean, there was certain people you questioned. I know when I worked at the other place, I didn't like the way that they talked to the residents, and there were certain things that were scary. Like I wouldn't want that person giving me a shower or a bath because they were scary, and then some of those people didn't want them to be showered or bathed by these people because they were just not nice and rough. Yeah. That was their makeup. That's how they were.
Maybe not a good fit for those positions.
Not a good fit for the position.
Sure.
But then in those kind of positions, they need to fit the job, and so they take sometimes people that should not be in the position. Does that understand?
Because you still need somebody.
You need a body there.
Yeah, you need somebody.
And that's the other thing, like where I was, they actually called me back. They wanted me to run their one program for the dementia. They were starting a new program. But the problem is that you don't take a body and fill it in a position because it's a warm body. You have to have people that have the right. You understand what I'm trying to say? And that was upsetting to me. And sometimes still is.
Is there anything else you'd like to add about your working life that we haven't talked about yet?
I think the hardest thing, honestly, was juggling time management. I still find it hard, and maybe it's my personality because I want to, give it all and do it all. But I think time management, I'm organized. That's the one thing about dance. It really teaches the children, the kids that go into dance, it seems like many of them, a lot of them, turn out to be the achievers, the ones who go to school, because they've learned at a very young age how to balance their schedule. Ironically enough, it was always the hardest thing for me because I'd go without sleep so that I could do what I had to do.
Everything. When you talk about time management and running your home and running all these things, did you ever feel like your family was? Did you ever feel guilt over having too many things on your plate?
Absolutely. And that's why they became all-nighters. But what I did do, I really had somebody tell me quality, not quantity, quality. And I would definitely stop when I put that quality in there. Back in those days, people went and had coffee and visited I didn't have no time for that stuff,
Sure.
you know, but yet I had to really watch because I didn't want to, that was the other thing, you didn't want to offend people because you're always in this mode of, you know, you have to learn how to, it's a tough act to balance it all. I think it's, but then again, we had different stipulations as women then than we do now. It was a different, it was the transition of women really more work from home. And like when I graduated, my father's thing was, well, you know, as long as you get a job, I mean, like be a secretary or something, you know. He didn't understand, like that was just get a job.
A job versus a career.
Yeah.
Because in his mind it wasn't the rest of your life. It was
well,
until you got
you're
married.
going to be a mother, you're going to raise your kids, you're going to do this. He didn't, it was, I didn't have that because they didn't understand that. You can't be angry with them for that. They just didn't know that.
Yeah, it
you
was
know.
a different time, sure. Would you like to talk about the Jean Carroll Show for a moment?
Well, I tell you what, that was fun. I learned a lot of cool things.
Well, tell us what you were doing there and what it was about.
Well, I'll tell you that, and then I'll have to tell you about my thing with I used to dance for the Youngstown Pride, and I got to go to Vegas and dance in Vegas. That was fun too. But the whole thing with the Jean Carroll Show was really funny. It was, you know, like you'd think of it as a honky-tonk kind of a show, but in all honesty, it really taught you a lot. You'd learn. I met different people. Matter of fact, a couple of them that I knew became Rockettes and did a lot of things with their careers. Because I would go and we would be. I was like considered a semi-regular, so you know I was there pretty often. You got to meet people, and they'd take you up into the control room and they'd show you how they do things, and it was really cool. I'd get out of school and then I'd get home like after midnight, you know, because they'd do a couple tapings, you know, so, and I'd laugh because if I was doing solos, they'd, you know, say, okay, you know, show us your routine, and I'd do something and then I'd choreograph it while I was making it up, and then when they'd actually go to record it, I did something completely different. And if I think I told you, if I was dating someone, I'd use them as a prop and dance around them, you know. So it was kind of fun. But I really did get to learn a lot of neat things from there. And then I taught for the, I actually, at first I was a Pride dancer, and that was pretty cool because we did go to Vegas because we got to perform there, and it was pretty sweet. It was just some really neat experiences that we had doing that. That was a lot of fun. But again, I was a mother. I was like, maybe 32 then or something, and my husband worked with me with the kids. I had that kind of support. I had my in-laws help a lot, and my folks did some. So that helped. But you know, I would go perform, you know, all the games. I was dancing on their line. I was like their cheerleaders. That's when that, you know, really came out a lot about the competition with the dance, and that's when it was starting to come even more on TV, and we were really getting into that. So my kids would come and I'd throw them balls, like, you know, at halftime, and you know, Dad brought them and they'd come see Mommy dance. So it was pretty cool. You know, the opportunities that I had were so interesting. I mean, I could go on with different scenarios. And just performing, because back in the day, you didn't do competitions like you do in dance now. You performed. You would, I mean, I can remember dancing and my costume falling off. You know, I mean, there were so many things that we got to do that I kind of think this group misses, you know. But they have other things that we didn't do. Yeah. Yeah.
Very good.
I don't know. Is that too much?
No, that's fine. Is there anything else you'd like to add about your work in life?
Well, thank you for the opportunity. It's a struggle to have balance. Balance is a struggle. It still is, and I'm going to be 65 years old. But I think that work is something, maybe because God gave me a lot of energy, which I'm very grateful for. But it's very challenging because I get these pictures in my brain and I try to, you know, make them happen. But I do find it very grateful for the opportunities that I've been given in my life. I've been very blessed.
Very good. Well, it sounds like you worked very hard and took advantage of opportunities as they came to you, and sometimes Luck is where preparation meets opportunity.
I remember taking pennies and counting pennies out so that I can afford to do something. And my husband said, I want you to go when you have an opportunity to do something, Judy. I want you to have that. I want you to do it. And I remember that. And I remember trying to make things work, counting pennies. And literally. And because I went to a lot of dance things, and, you know, all the time. Sure. So that education, you don't realize it, but it's in there. What you have, you never lose. It's in there. It's in that suitcase of life. It really is.
Very good.
So,
well, thank you so much
you're
for
welcome.
talking with me
Thank
today.
you for
I
your
appreciate
time.
it.